I just watched a video that really expanded my view, mostly of myself, and it made me realize a really negative thought process or even ideology that I had. But I'll begin with something that rather disappointed me. Yesterday, I was waiting very eagerly for the announcement of EVO, which is a fighting championship, fighting game championship. But the reason I was so excited for it is because for a long time I've been attached to the idea of not just attending it, which would make sense, but for some reason of winning it, beyond the feasibility of the idea of winning it. I was so attached to that idea regardless because it represented something to me. For a long time, I have felt like I need to prove myself. The need to be heard, but more than that, the need to establish that I am worth something. And somewhere along the line, I grew to the idea that I had to accomplish something in order to attain that sense of worth. I have dreams, but all these dreams seem to be attached to that central idea. The idea that I need to prove myself, to prove that not just really to others, but more to myself, that I am worth it, worth something. This video I watched talked about the idea, and they called it the masculine sense of purpose, but not out of an idea of sponsoring that idea, but rather critiquing it. Because it's very common, and hearing this man say this made me realize it too, due to the way our media depicts heroic men, to have this idea of a goal that is more important than anything else, and how that goal of maybe self-sacrifice or some other form of it merits and makes everything leading up to that goal okay. And at the end of the day, that goal, that purpose, that masculine purpose, validates the person despite anything else they might have done. And it's interesting because he used examples of a lot of different fictional characters, but the core of them is that they're kind of assholes. They're rude to the people around them and they have awful behavior. But they seek this higher purpose and they perform this greater task that, to some reason, people like me and apparently him, gives them a sense of moral righteousness. Sure, all these slightly bad things they did were bad, but they attained this greater goal. This, once again, masculine purpose. And that makes it okay. He went on to critique how it wasn't okay. How this idea of pushing everything into a goal to prove yourself for a sense of purpose does not in any way really exonerate you of other faults. For me, I was coming to realize that, in a way, the silly goal in my head of winning this championship, but more so the way all my goals are kind of shaped around that idea, are really damaging. For me, it manifests in the desire to isolate myself socially. Because, and it's hard to put the word because it's just so recently formed in my mind, but anything that isn't to pursue, in order to pursue these greater goals, has been mentally, even if subconsciously, considered by me to be not worth it. School, when in comparison to what I thought was my greater purpose, became less valuable. Work seemed like a slog. And social isolation seemed like a form of giving myself more time, or indeed, or rather, more energy, maybe, still fuzzy, to pursue my sense of greater purpose, to prove myself. Watching this video talking about this critique of this general idea and reflecting on it and upon myself, I realized that that's very silly, especially since the motivation behind my goal is more than anything to prove my sense of self-worth. But to isolate yourself, or at least to have the instinct to do so, in order to pursue a goal to prove yourself to others is kind of an oxymoron. And something really inspiring that he talked about was he critiqued it further by saying this idea of pursuing whatever your goal is, and he conflated it to modern things that we see every day, like moral righteousness or money or a perfect physical body. It could even be a rank in a video game or an ideal dream job. Because pursuing this goal may have a value in of itself, but that doesn't mean your normal everyday responsibilities, your ordinary senses of purpose, are any less valuable. He critiqued this idea because, in a way, pursuing this greater goal that has more purpose, more weight than everything else that we do in our daily lives is a sense of escapism, because it seems to justify these behaviors. Sure, I didn't work, but I grinded hours in a game that's going to be my career one day. Sure, I didn't go to that birthday party or hang out with my friends or visit with a family member, but it was all with a purpose. He talked about how in reality, these things that may not be very pleasant are just as purposeful as these greater schemes, and how in reality, life isn't and shouldn't be like these heroes in the movies, where you pursue that greater purpose to all with everything you have. But it's a balance of performing these everyday tasks, of fulfilling your everyday purpose, of visiting your grandmother, of doing the laundry, of washing the dishes, going to work and going to school, and how in reality, if you were to do only one of those things, as long as you come to accept the fact, doing your everyday things is more valuable. For me, it's really disheartening to realize how far away I am from my goals. The desire to socially isolate comes from the idea that I have not done nearly enough to fulfill my greater sense of purpose. For me, the desire to prove myself comes out of an area that I don't feel adequate in the current position that I'm in. And beyond any hand-waving that you can say that everyone has intrinsic value, which they do, to somebody in my state of mind that doesn't really help. But hearing that it's bad, and giving the reasons why it's bad to pursue your goal to beyond everything else, and how it's damaging to the people around you, and how pursuing your normal, everyday set purposes can be just as fulfilling, it really helped me. And maybe it'll help you too. Thanks.